December 1st, 2020?
Yeah. I forget. Can I vote? Yes, I second it.
Yeah, you're a voter.
Yeah,
Not on the ABC though.
that's right. Yeah.
All for? Oppose? Okay. And has everybody looked at the minutes from the, oh my God, that was October 6th meeting?
Yeah.
Any issues there?
No. No.
No? Okay. So I move that the minutes from the October 6th, 2020 meeting be adopted.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Okay.
Come on, Tyler, you gotta vote.
Against? Carried. Okay. So let's do no public comments. We've got updates. So Emma.
Hey, so I was just telling Steph I prepared kind of a longer presentation for this because it's year end, wrapping things up. So I actually have a presentation to share.
Ooh, good.
All right. So this is the last progress update for 2020 as we're ending up the year right now. And I wish I had more to report on, but it's been a pretty rough year for transportation work with COVID, especially the impacts on transit use, and also a lot of staff changes with public works. So you can see here with the pie chart, we have half of the initial work plan was postponed or canceled. And then the other half that we did commit to, we have completed a third, 2 elements are ongoing, and about a third have yet to be finished. Of those that we have completed, we have finished the 2019 progress report. So that's our first annual progress report. So that's a good milestone. We've also finished our 2021 work plan and the speed management project. And of those that are delayed, there's the wayfinding for the multi-use path. That's the section that was completed in front of the school, VIX. So the pavement art is up, but we also need to get down proper pavement markings and signage. So the stencils are bought, the signs are bought, they just need to get installed. So I'd say that one's about 75% done. We also have our cycling network improvement piece, which is the signage that everyone remembers we all worked on. We have the please do not pass bicycle signs, as well as the graphic with the bicycle and car in single file do not pass. We also got the road banner, which we did use for a cycle safety event earlier this year, but the signs still need to go up. So that one's about half done. And then the Cardina pedestrian improvements, I'd say that one's almost all done. As everyone's probably aware, we now have a great 3-meter wide sidewalk all the way down this road. We have proper letdowns at the intersection, and pedestrian lighting has also been installed, but we are missing those tactile walking surface indicators. That's those yellow plastic ridges that are put in front of bus stops to help the visually impaired. So that's a small piece, but we do need to get that done in order to claim the funding. And just a quick update on the postponed items. The electric vehicle infrastructure project has been postponed for some time now. We initially were planning to get it installed in 2019, but we have had a lot of staff changes that has made that kind of hard to pick up as the staff kept changing. So at this point, we have reactivated our request with BC Hydro, and they've just gone back to us with a bit of an update. They will take about 1.5 months for design work. This is extended timing with COVID, which is understandable. And then to actually put the connection in the ground will take about another month. And once that's in, we then need to hire an electrician on island to install the stations themselves. And that's pretty short, pretty quick work if we can secure an electrician. They're in pretty high demand right now. So hopefully, if all goes well, we will see those stations in the ground by March next year. And then an update on our multi-use path phase 1. As you all probably remember, the initial first phase was for the sharp turn at Charlie's Lane, which is just off the map here at the bottom left-hand side. That's just background noise, right?
I muted him, but it'd be good. We could be in a movie.
Okay. So for this one, we've shifted our focus from Charlie's Lane to make a connection from the ferry to Artisan Lane, building on the existing section in front of the school. So in this graphic, you can see that's actually 2 sections, section 1 and 2. In section 1, we actually have a few encroachments on private property. There's Crippen Park here with Metro Vancouver Parks, as well as a private property on one corner of Miller Road, and then on the other corner is a Telus lot. So we are in discussions with all of those owners for encroachment agreements, but depending on how those agreements go, we may or may not be able to include this section as part of our phase 1, because we're also on a very tight deadline to use all the funding that we've got. We must spend it by March. So we actually have a meeting with the consultants this Thursday, this week. We have all the preliminary design down, but we need to talk about our cost estimates and make decisions on what exactly can we afford for phase 1 and get built by March. I wish we had that meeting already and I could tell you, but it will be a portion or maybe even all of section 1 and 2. Unlikely that it's all, but it really depends how much everything costs. So that's yet to come, but something will get built in March. And then I wanted to just recap the traffic calming policy that was just adopted by Council in November. And this wrapped up our speed management project that was part of the work plan. And it was a really important project because we're looking at our commitment to Vision Zero, which is to have 0 fatalities and 0 serious injuries of vulnerable road users. And when we're talking about vulnerable, that's really those people that are not inside vehicles that are also using the road and should have fair and equitable, safe access to the road as vehicles and drivers do. So this is just a graphic I find really useful to show why it's so important to make sure that safe speeds are followed on the roads to help protect those vulnerable road users. As you can see, starting at 30 kilometers per hour, your chance of survival being hit by a car as a pedestrian is pretty good, 90%. Hoping it never happens, but 30 kilometers, your chances are pretty good. But as you go up, every 10 kilometers, your chance of surviving come down drastically. And fortunately for Bowen Island, our maximum speed limit is 40 kilometers per hour, which a lot of municipalities would love to have for safety, and we have it. It's just making sure that it's followed on the island. So this project is really, it's not about lowering the speed limit any more than it is, but it's really about making sure those limits are respected. So what does that mean? Project involved a lot of mapping. We finally got our speed limits in GIS form, and we were able to use that to pass a bylaw, and that established our speed limits, making them legally enforceable. We also were able to acquire quite an inventory of speed limit signs with a grant from Vision Zero, and those signs are also needed for legal enforcement of our speed limits. And we drafted and got adopted a traffic calming policy. And where we're at right now is building that community awareness. Why is it important to have, safe speed limits and have them followed? And what do you do if you find in your neighborhood that speeding is an issue and people are going way too fast? And I wanted to go over this with this committee because I feel like this is where you guys can really help build that community awareness. If you know a neighbor or a friend or anyone that has an issue with traffic calming, please pass along this information. So the policy that was adopted, and it's on the municipal website that you could point anyone to under policies, it involves several steps from initiation to implementation and monitoring after it's implemented, just to make sure that we start building some data on what exactly is effective traffic calming on Bowen Island. We're going to monitor a year after implementation. But before we get there, the very first step is initiation, and this would be a request submitted by an affected resident. And in the policy, an affected resident is someone that is living close to the subject road segment. So, for example, if this section highlighted in orange was problematic for speeding, within this buffer radius, which actually just escapes me right now, I think it's 500 meters. It's in the policy, but within a certain buffer radius, all those residents that access that road are considered affected properties. And any one of those affected properties can make a request. They just fill out an application form online. And with that request, they need to provide support from at least 5 or 60% of the other affected properties. So this is a little tricky when they say 5 or 60%, but it's whichever is lower. So in this case, 60% of the number of affected properties is only 4. And if this applicant got 4 signatures on his application, it would be accepted. It would go to the second phase where staff would review that subject road segment for vehicle volumes and speeds to make sure that there really does warrant traffic calming. Other considerations would be proximity to vulnerable road users like schools and playgrounds or senior developments, and lack of active transportation infrastructure like sidewalks. And other special consideration are places where there's oh, are you waving to me, Steph? You frozen?
Steph is frozen.
Emma?
Am I frozen?
No, Steph is.
Yeah, you're okay, Emma.
Okay.
Steph
I'm going
is
to continue. Hopefully Steph can hear me. In the interest of time, I'm going to continue. Excessive speeding is where the majority of cars are going over the speed limit by 50% or more. So in those types of cases, if the application meets any of these types of warrants, it will move on to the next stage, which is development and consultation. This is where we take into consideration the existing road conditions and the specific issues that we're looking to address with traffic calming. And this is where I think everyone remembers when I presented on the various traffic calming measures, I think 1 or 2 meetings ago. This is where we would look at those different measures and really identify an appropriate measure. And there will definitely be times where there might not be an appropriate measure. It might be too cost prohibitive for that section of road, or maybe it's a primary access road for emergency vehicles and we can't physically alter it. And in those cases, there are a number of education and enforcement strategies that the neighborhood could use and may help with traffic calming without physical measures. So those are also outlined in the policy. If an appropriate measure is identified, then that would be referred to a number of agencies, including the Transportation Advisory Committee. So this is to make sure that the proposed traffic calming measure is acceptable for emergency services, for the greater neighborhood and community needs. And it's really important that the committee take their time to review these types of applications and identify any red flags and make a recommendation to council. So if all the approvals, all those referrals come back in support of the application, it will then go on to secure funding. If the cost of the traffic calming measure is less than $5,000, it should be covered under the operating budget of Public Works. If it's more, it will then need to go to council for budget approval. If the funding is secured, then Public Works will schedule the implementation into their work schedule and inform the affected residents of when everything will happen. Once it is constructed, as I mentioned, staff will go back 1 year after to collect vehicle speed and volume data, just to make sure that those traffic calming measures actually made a difference. And if they didn't, why not do a little investigation, and hopefully we improve the process as we go. So that was the traffic calming policy. And Right now, just looking in terms of our next steps in the transportation plan, our 2021 work plan was approved by council and referred to the budget process. So there are a number of new elements in the 2021 work plan. The speed management project will continue to stay on the work plans. As I mentioned, we will be bringing applications to TAC for review. So that's a new thing. If we get any traffic calming requests, they will come to TAC. So that's part of the work plan. We're also looking at footpath lighting to help improve pedestrian safety across the island. And we have cycling promotion and park and ride incentives. So those are both new, and staff will be coming back to the committee for ideas in the new year. And we have 3 larger projects that all require budget approval to proceed. And we're estimating hopefully a March approval for the budget. So we'll find out if we can go forward with these 3 projects. And of course, all of our regional engagement that we canceled this year in light of COVID, hopefully we can get back to some of that next year. So this is coordinating with our local transportation providers, TransLink, BC Ferries, maybe the water taxi and the Downtown Express if they do choose to start running again. There's also the greater regional partnerships with Metro Vancouver, the Sea to Sky Corridor, Howe Sound, and improving our more regional access to destinations. So that's something to think about, and staff will bring that back for more discussion in the new year. That's it. So that wraps up what we've done in 2020 and kind of an idea of what we're going to start doing in 2021. And I thank you, everyone on this committee, for all your wonderful volunteer time. And if you have any questions,
Thank you.
happy to talk.
Yeah, I've got a comment. I raised my hand, but I'm not sure there are other hands raised, but I'll just start. I just wanted to, on the traffic calming was a tough issue, and it went to a couple of council meetings because, well, remember we had that sort of little public consultation piece, and there were only a handful of people, I think 7, the first time, and so that's got it put off. But really, I think Emma did an excellent job on this because her work was so complete that it was very hard for council to turn it down. So one of the concerns they had really was about budget, a worry that this would be a budget item in terms of either staff time or expenditures on those, less than 5,000, but several of them become suddenly quite a pile of dough. So what they ended up, Gary started off by saying he was really kind of concerned about this and wanted to see how it is after a year. And so I suggested that we approve it, but I was comfortable with having a look at it after a year. Now, there is, as part of the process, it's being looked at after a year, as Emma just pointed out, but it would be a wider review than that, sort of looking at, okay, how was this in terms of staff time? And was it too expensive and stuff like that. So that was the one change that was made. It was still a split council, but we have got it passed, and I really wanted to thank Emma for her work on that. I've got one other thing to just mention that in terms of our work plan for next year, in terms of what Emma mentioned about looking at commuting schedules and working together with others and so on. So I also have meetings. I'm kinds of an informal member of the board. I observe board meetings for the Bowen Transportation Society, the express bus downtown folks. And so what they've been doing, they of course canceled everything with COVID because nobody was going downtown. A few people are, and so they've been putting out surveys to their members. And a few people are going 1 day a week, a handful 2 days a week, but most people are really working from home, and they're planned to stay working home for a good while. We'll see what happens after a while with a vaccine and so on, but there are no plans to, there's a recognition that hardly anyone is commuting because of COVID, but also what they've learned about working at home. It works pretty well. And a lot of companies seem quite happy with it. So in terms of our coordinating schedules and working on other things like that, and also looking at working with BTS, not a heck of a lot happening in the next while. What BTS will be doing, though, is looking at bidding for the contract for the on-island service for 2022. So that'll be, the RFP will be open at the end of 2021. And I think we need to bring in a proposal probably by August, something like that, I'm not sure. So that's just some of the things that have been going on in terms of the transportation plan. So thanks, Ely.
Anybody else? Any other comments?
Oh, good recap presentation. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Emma, for all your hard work with that. It was awesome. Okay, we can move on. Tyler?
Is this the FAC update?
Yeah, all the new things happening.
Yeah, I haven't done another one since the one from October 29th, because literally there has been nothing that's happened as far as the BIMTAC or FAC emails. But I guess we
It
haven't.
was just provided in writing, but we didn't end up meeting. Is there anything you wanted to hear from that last one?
Yeah, there's still been no FAC meetings or any formal communication. I mean, the topics from that update were mostly that there was a new Marine superintendent who will be one of the people we meet with. We haven't met him yet. The website received many comments from the website rollout a couple months ago, and they'll be working on that, including the printable schedule and 2 directions on 1 page. There was a meeting about in Snug Cove about the terminal redevelopment, and I think David actually gave us an update on that last meeting.
Yeah.
And then I think I just included a personal anecdote about people exhibiting COVID symptoms on the ferry, and hearing the staff basically say that they weren't doctors and they weren't going to confront people for coughing and hacking in the passenger lounge, which I thought was interesting. But because we're a sailing of 20 minutes and not 30 minutes, they're not required by policy to screen people. So I thought that was an interesting outcome of that policy.
Did the person have a mask on at least?
Around, not covering their nose, but sort of over their chin and half their mouth kind of deal.
Yeah, that's one of my personal favorites.
But the ferry's been empty. We did get got BC Ferry's ridership data recently that I think I forwarded down already, that often gets processed by a volunteer. So there might be some updates in the next month or so about showing us the obvious, that there's been a drastic change to ferry ridership.
Mm-hmm. Yuppers. Yeah, they sent out, I don't know if you all got it. So I assume that anybody that had done that little feedback tab got invited to do some sort of follow-up survey or something. Did you see that? Anyways, I did. And so I, you had to put your spiel in it and everything. And, it asked those questions. How often do you take it, the ferry and all that stuff? And then it asked you for your comments. And my main comment was that, I was just surprised that local, communities that use the ferry as a mode of transportation, like it's our highway kind of thing, that we weren't consulted, it seemed, in this whole planning process. It was all about tourism, and being able to plan your holiday and everything. And so I just thought, tried to get it across to them that that was extremely poor planning on their part. So I did that.
Good, thanks, Emma. Thanks, Ely. Yeah.
I also had sorry, Tyler, are you finished?
Yes.
Okay. I also had another story where I thought it was kind of interesting. So got a phone call from my son, who he and his friend had dropped their boarding passes and were refused entry onto the ferry.
Ooh.
And it was a brand new guy, right? Even though they were with all their friends, the whole Bowen you know, a lot of them kind of thing, right? And so and this was one of their days where they came home early, right? So they ended up having to wait for the 2:30 ferry and were told that they would have to pay to get back on, right? Because the guy was saying that they were trying to sneak on the ferry or something, you know. Anyways, turns out it was the guy's first day. He totally screwed up, but I was in town, couldn't deal with it. My husband called and raised heck and basically had the shift supervisor or whatever go down and apologize to Finn and his friend and gave them boarding passes and everything. And it's not supposed to happen. I mean, it doesn't make any sense because they don't have to pay anything. You know what I mean? Like, just let the kids on. So anyways, I'm not sure about, I know that that has happened before. And my husband just suggested that they improve their training for new people. So yeah, good times.
Yeah.
It was not fun. Anyways, I'm not sure that anything needs to be said about that other than that, but hopefully it won't happen again. Okay.
You know, I've got a question from the emergency program, Tyler. You're allowed on in a car with COVID symptoms.
You're allowed to walk on as well if you warn them ahead of time. So if you call BC Ferries and tell them you have symptoms or you are going to be isolating and you can't travel in a car, they will essentially block off a section of the upper deck for you to sit in by yourself and keep their staff
So you
away.
just pretend.
I'm sure they don't want you to do that, but they have to provide an option for people who don't use cars. So
Received some stressed correspondence about the catch-22 of not being allowed on the ferry with symptoms while needing to go down to get tested. And I found it unfathomable that you wouldn't be allowed to be staying in your car, but this is even better news. I'll share that. Thank you.
Anything else about that? Any other ferry fun?
So I'm just sorry about the ferry advisory committee. They're not going to do a Zoom meeting or anything to keep the loop, or?
I don't think so. It's a BC Ferries committee. I think there was some talk about setting something up, but they want to use their own in-house meeting, or it has to follow their whatever their deal is. So we haven't heard anything.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay, so should we move on to council update?
Sure. I realized right on the council update was the Bowen Transportation Society.
I didn't want to stop you.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I mean, I did read the agenda ahead of time, but it didn't stick in the brain, did it? Painting arrows on Trunk Road, council agreed with that. I mean, we sort of explained it, took a little while to explain because, you know, it can be, unless you see diagrams, you're not quite sure what people are talking about. But anyway, they directed that to staff. So it's back to staff, who are the experts, to figure out, okay, should this be done? How should it be done? When should it be done? And so on. So that's moving forward. Other updates, council highlights. Yeah, I flipped on both of those council highlights, and it's just on the traffic calming policy and the improvement of the plan, things we've already gone over. So I think that covers the council updates. Unless there are any questions.
Nope.
I mean, both links are pretty clear. It has all the stuff.
Okay, well then let's move on to action items.
Seems like a lot of these are ongoing, like just background actions.
I did the October 6th one for me to do the Facebook thing. I did that. So that's completed.
Okay.
I don't see them in the document. I flipped through, but I didn't see. Are they somewhere?
Unfortunately, Steph, I noticed this. So it didn't end up in this current one. It's in the
Minutes?
one from November.
Oh, the attachment isn't attached?
The action items are not in this agenda for today.
Oh, sorry. Here, do you want me just to do a quick screen?
Sure.
Sorry, Steph, I forgot to mention that.
Sorry. Can you see it?
Yep.
Okay, Illy did Facebook, Emma Bix for another bike banner event.
Ooh,
Subcommittee.
did not do that. Was that meant for the return to school in September?
I think this was September 21st. So I think the idea was that the event had been effective because when the RCMP were there, people were reacting differently than when the RCMP weren't there. Do
Yeah, I
another
think
event similar to the back to school bike.
Yeah, I think the idea was to do another one, but I don't know if it's necessary until, I don't know. I mean, it's maybe a good idea to do something when it is dark out, right? For those same ferries that we were targeting before.
I probably wouldn't.
Wouldn't go over very well, I don't think.
No,
I think it's too dangerous.
it's too dangerous. Yeah. Yeah.
Bowen in the dark is a rough go. Having kids and
Yeah.
stuff is too
On
much.
the road, yeah.
Do you think that there's something we could do, though, even just having a sign or something just so people see it? Because people are still biking.
I wouldn't go anywhere near the dark on Bowen and making, like, adding anything to the road environment. It's quite hard for drivers with oncoming lights and wet roads dealing with real people on the road. And I think we are trying to improve that through
Yeah.
a lot of these steps, but I think it's so bad that I wouldn't want to push it further in any way in the dark.
Yeah.
So we should
And
revisit this
yeah,
in
I think
spring.
I think there was some talk of doing it as a bike to school week event because normally bike to school week is like in May, and then with COVID it got canceled, and there was talk of doing it in September. But I don't think it. I think some schools registered, but for sure, Bix did not register for that in September, and it was really up in the air because I don't know if you all remember, like September was kind of like touch and go with schools.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably why this kind of fell off my radar. I didn't think it was really appropriate to try and make something when a lot of kids weren't even going to school or wasn't sure if they were going to stay in school. So maybe something we can reassess for next bike to school week
And that's in May, you say?
in May of next year.
Yeah, can we somehow leave it on here so that it's for
Is
May?
it on your work plan, Emma? Like,
Well, we have cycling promotion.
okay, I'll
but-
leave it as an ongoing action.
Yeah, this would be like a good specific idea for that.
Okay, so I'll just say move to the bottom of the page. Patrick, maybe Emma can speak to the BC Hydro.
Oh yeah, that was part of my update
Yeah.
in the presentation. So we're looking at March at the earliest.
And that's gonna, okay. And then additional column with the year before progress.
All right.
So
Yeah,
done?
that's for next year's report.
Next year's, okay.
Great.
Data regarding overload timing, knowing if it was overloaded doesn't tell you anything unless you know when it became.
Yeah, well, I guess we'll leave that on there until there's an
Okay.
FAC meeting.
Okay. And medical assured loading.
Thing. Yeah.
Same.
Yeah, although it has been dealt with
Dealt with that.
quite a bit.
Yeah, I think that was brought up, wasn't it? At the FAC, the last one of the meetings.
So
Yeah, I'm
took
not
that
sure
off?
if it was by email or through the meeting, but I'm pretty sure everyone who needed medical assured loading was given it with no hassle from BC Ferries. So we could probably take it off unless somebody's still somehow left out of the loop, but I know the two
There's
groups
something
looking
about
for
making the process simpler because it's so complicated. But maybe I'll take it off.
Yeah, I think that was
Might
done.
come up again.
Oh no, I'm misinterpreting that. Medical assured loading for patients. It was the priority loading for the healthcare providers I'm thinking of.
Oh,
Yeah,
right.
So
I thought it
leave
was
this on.
Leave it on, okay. Because I think it's a very complicated process going through the municipality, BC Ferries municipality doctor. And the feeling was that people who aren't feeling well, that's the last thing they need to be doing.
Yeah, I think the issue here is that people may think that this medical assured loading is a little bit more accessible than it's meant to be. But I don't know, I'll bring it up.
Ongoing, people were gonna look at the ferry marshalling in other communities. I guess that doesn't have the.
I don't think anybody's, at least I'm not traveling to other communities. So
Just leave it on, okay, and more follow-up on wheelchair group. I guess the same thing then.
I thought we were going to remove this one last time.
Okay. I'll remove it. Sorry if I didn't.
I could be making that up.
This is
I'll
about the
remove it.
connections
It's not
off
supposed
Cardina.
Yeah.
Have you heard anything, Tyler?
Well, I reached out after the fact and didn't get a response. Just that the users that seemed to be affected seemed to be doing just fine. So,
Okay. Great. Yeah, the little landscape path looks good. The redesign, well, the preliminary design for phase 1 of the multi-use path, the corner of Cardina and Bowen Island Trunk Road right now has like kind of a really steep ramp up as you turn off of Bowen Island onto Cardina. They upped the grade of that road a lot and really didn't smooth it out for the sidewalk, so it kind of just super steep. But in the multi-use path, when we're widening the sidewalk, they're going to try and bring that down more gently so that it's not such a steep hill.
would you like me to reach out for feedback since that's been installed? Because this was back before any of that landscaping work had been done.
Yeah. Actually, if you have some connections there, that'd be great to get a little feedback on. Well, one, the ramp that has been put in place between Caring Circle and Hill Commons.
Yeah.
But also that corner at Bowen Island Trunk Road going onto Cardina on that sidewalk, how people are finding that corner.
Okay.
all right.
Back on the list, Tyler. In fact, it's moved to the top of the page now.
Okay, well that's that, I think, you guys.
I had one comment, more just out of interest. I noticed during the summer there was quite a bit of cycling tourism to Bowen. People seem to be up for the challenge lately, and
It's so boring.
And then there's a local islander has posted Bowen as the worst ride in Canada. I don't know if you saw that.
I didn't see
Saw that on the newspaper.
I did see, and not even that, but also they were mentioned in like Germany or something. Like these cycle enthusiasts like brought up Bowen.
They were mentioned on the most popular web series in the world for cycling as being the self-proclaimed worst ride in Canada.
Oh boy.
Is that like tell your friends it's awful here?
It works, yeah, right in there. Wasn't that our former TAC member, Christopher Haas?
Yeah, I thought I wasn't supposed to name names, but yeah.
Oh.
Well, no, he posted it all over Facebook and stuff. So
yeah, no, it's a public group, but yeah, I thought that was kind of funny.
Hilarious.
Too hilarious.
And then the other thought about the traffic calming, I wonder if you'll get people who aren't homeowners in the area complaining or trying to make a application if, say, they transit an area, like people who walk for transportation and may go through a neighborhood that isn't where their house is and feel safety is an issue there. I mean, you'll be reviewing it in a year, I suppose, anyway, but it'll be interesting to see if anybody complains that they don't have grounds to put in an application if they're a road user who doesn't live near said area.
Yeah, so that's why they have to be an affected resident to put in the application.
Yeah, I was just thinking there's people who maybe walk from one neighborhood to the ferry on a daily basis or and may travel through a neighborhood that's not their own that might try and raise a concern. And
I mean, if they can convince enough of the actual affected residents to put in an application, then that's fine. But if they don't live there, because these are hard measures, physical infrastructure measures, right? It would affect the properties that are adjacent to it. So the request needs to come from those residents that are physically affected.
Well, if I be the devil's advocate here, if we're going for fair and equitable access to roads, landowners don't own the road in front of their house and don't really have any greater authority over it than the other road users. So I could see somebody putting a complaint out that their voice is not being heard just because they don't happen to live on that block. I'm just being argumentative because I like to.
No,
it's a really good point, and they can definitely bring a request forward to council because the policy also allows council to direct traffic calming. But that would be like a different path.
Yeah.
For someone that's not a resident.
Yeah, good point, Tyler. I think it's a good, yeah.
I've got a funny corner that I've never done this before. Do you mind if I talk?
Yeah, go ahead.
Because it drives me crazy, but I think it's a quiet night. Maybe I can. Do you know when you come up in Horseshoe Bay, if you're in the village, say you went to Starbucks to get a coffee after the ferry, then you want to get back up to the highway? So if you can go up past like the ice cream shop, CIBC, and go that way, or if you go towards like past Yaya's and where the new construction is that way, when you get to where those two meet, do you guys ever find a problem at that intersection?
I've had problems with that intersection.
When I'm coming up this way, there's a stop sign, and then I go and I nearly get smoked.
Yeah.
Every time. And then I'm thinking, well, it's my fault. So if I go this way, I nearly smoke the guy. So I've tried it both ways because there's a stop sign there and there's all this.
I'm not sure what this has to do
stop
with
sign
Bowen
here.
Island, though, Steph. I'm not sure what this has to do with Bowen Island.
Sorry, but I'm just wondering because so for the traffic calming policy, I would probably want to say, can you put in a stop sign on this one, please? Say, well, you don't live in this neighborhood, so we're not going to take your point of view.
But that was not even a traffic calming thing. It sounds like a traffic safety thing if the stop sign's not in the right place.
Okay. I'm a very attentive driver. I actually go and experiment with it. Try it. You'll see.
Yeah, that's a hinky corner for sure. Yeah, it is. Okay. So let's get back to our meeting here, which is now the end of our meeting. So the next meeting, Steph and I were talking about having it every 2 months, unless something comes up, unless Emma needs us for something or there's something else that we have to vote on or whatever. I think that should keep it current enough. Does everybody think so? And then, yeah, if we have to, we'll meet more than that, which would bring our next meeting to February the 2nd. So hopefully that works for everybody.
Okay, sounds good to me. Yeah.
And I believe that's it. Anybody else want to say anything?
So I just put for info items, this island comeback gives.
Oh, yes, sorry.
Just the Rural Islands Economic Partnership Society has initiated this program to buy your Christmas gifts online. certificates to support local business.
Perfect.
Nice.
Plug.
Good plug. All right, all. Well, I guess have a merry. And
Thank you.
And
have
stay
a happy
safe,
New
everyone.
Year and
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah, stay safe. Happy holidays.
It's around.
Happy holidays.
Stay safe. You just blew up a door.
Yeah,
Yeah.
We're fine.
Sounds fun.
it is.
All right.
Bye, guys.
Thank you guys so much for all you do. And
Yes.
Thank
a great
you.
Thank
new
you,
year.
Steph, for all you do. And Emma,
Yeah.
thanks for all you do.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Night.
Night.
Good night.